Room 402 demanded food at midnight, on a full moon. The guy on the phone sounded like he swallowed a bucket of nails. I grabbed a leftover turkey club sandwich, put it on a tray, and took the elevator up. The door sat wide open. I stepped inside and stopped cold. My stomach did a hard flip. The guest, Rylan, knelt on the carpet. His crisp blue suit lay in ribbons. Dark fur erupted from his back. His bones snapped and popped in the quiet room. He ripped his head up. The human color vanished from his eyes, replaced by a burning predator gold. Curved talons shredded the floorboards. A sharp scent hit the air. He smelled like fresh rain and crushed cedar wood. A low snarl shook the drywall. "Mate," a deep voice echoed in his head. "Quiet," he snapped back at his inner beast. "She is going to run." I didn't run. I pay rent. I don't have time to be scared. I nudged the tray forward with my shoe. "So," I said, "do you want this sandwich or should I go fetch a raw steak?" The monster blinked. He stepped forward and let out a chest-rattling rumble. "I prefer my meat raw," he growled. I crossed my arms. "Great, the kitchen is closed. Eat the turkey and don't break the TV. Those flat screens cost a fortune." He wanted a screaming victim. He got a tired receptionist. And that was the exact moment the runaway alpha decided I was his. Chapter 1. Sandra tapped her plastic pen against the marble reception desk. The grand lobby of the hotel sat quiet. The wall clock ticked past midnight. Moonlight spilled through the glass front doors. It was a full moon. She hated full moons. They brought out the oddballs. The phone on the desk buzzed. The caller ID flashed room 402. Sandra picked up the receiver. "Front desk, how can I help you tonight?" A strained groan came through the speaker. "Food." "Excuse me, sir?" Sandra asked. "Need food. Leave it at the door," the voice grunted. The man sounded rough. He spoke like he had swallowed a handful of gravel. The line went dead. Sandra sighed. The night chef left 2 hours ago. She pushed her chair back and walked to the cramped staff kitchen. The ceiling lights flickered. She opened the fridge and found a half-eaten turkey club sandwich. It belonged to the day manager. Sandra didn't care. She tossed the sandwich onto a tarnished silver tray. She boiled some water and steeped a pot of chamomile tea. Who demands a snack like a caveman at midnight, she thought. She balanced the metal tray on one hand. She walked to the staff elevator and pressed the button for the 4th floor. The metal doors rattled open. She stepped out into the long, dark hallway. The cheap floral carpet muffled her footsteps. Room 402 sat at the far end of the corridor. Sandra stopped in front of the thick wooden frame. She raised her fist and knocked. No answer. Sandra knocked again, putting more force into it. "Room service!" A loud crash echoed from inside the room. Something heavy slammed against the wall. Wood splintered. A glass lamp shattered on the floor. Sandra frowned. She grabbed the brass handle. The lock was unlatched. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. "Sir, I brought your—" Sandra started. Her words vanished. The guest, Rylan, knelt in the center of the room. His crisp blue suit jacket lay in pieces. His white dress shirt tore down the back in straight ribbons. Thick, dark fur pushed out from his skin. Sandra gripped the tray tight. Her brain tried to process the scene. Rylan hunched over. His bones cracked. They popped loud in the quiet room. The sound made Sandra sick to her stomach. His hands pressed flat into the carpet. His fingernails grew into sharp claws. They dug deep gouges into the floorboards. He snapped his head up. His eyes flashed a bright, glowing yellow. Sandra froze in place. She stared at the torn clothes. She stared at the fur. She stared at the giant beast man in front of her. He took harsh breaths. A scent hit her nose. He smelled like cedar and fresh rain. "Well, this is a new kind of hotel problem," she thought. "They don't cover this in the employee handbook." Rylan let out a low rumble. It shook the picture frames hanging on the drywall. He bared his teeth. They were pointed and sharp. Mate. A deep voice purred in Ryland's mind. Quiet! Ryland snapped back at his inner wolf. She is a human. She is going to scream. She is going to run away. Sandra didn't scream. She didn't run. She stood her ground. Her heart beat fast, but she kept her face blank. So, Sandra said, do you want this tea, or should I go back down and bring you a raw steak? Rylan blinked. The glowing yellow in his eyes dimmed for a second. Confusion washed over his rough face. The shift stopped halfway. He stayed caught between a man and a wolf. She is brave, his wolf pushed. She is annoying, Rylan argued. Sandra walked forward. She bent down and placed the tarnished tray on the carpet. She pushed it toward him with the toe of her shoe. Eat the sandwich, Sandra said. It has bacon on it. Maybe that will help with whatever… She waved her hand at his furry arms. This whole situation is… Rylan just stared at her. He expected terror. He expected her to grab the phone and call the police. He didn't expect a sarcastic joke about a turkey club. The kitchen closes at 1, Sandra added. Don't break the television. Those flat screens cost a fortune, and my boss will dock my pay if I don't report the damage. She turned her back on the giant monster. She walked out of the room and pulled the panel shut. The lock clicked into place. Sandra stood in the quiet hallway. She took a deep breath. Her hands shook. She shoved them deep into her uniform pockets. Just a regular Tuesday night, she told herself. A guy turning into a dog. Big deal. She walked back to the elevator. She had 4 hours left on her shift. She hoped the guy in 402 tipped well. Chapter 2. 3 nights passed. Sandra still had her job. Rylan didn't eat her. In fact, he didn't do much of anything besides stand in the lobby. It was 11 o'clock. Sandra sorted a stack of plastic room keys. The grand chandelier cast a warm glow over the reception area. Ryland stood by a large potted palm tree near the front doors. He wore a fresh black t-shirt and dark jeans. He stood still as a stone. He watched her. He didn't blink. He thinks I am going to call animal control, Sandra realized. She ignored him. She typed a guest invoice on her computer. The keys clacked in the quiet room. Rylan gripped the edge of a glass side table. His knuckles turned white under the strain. He expected fear. He waited for the human to break. He needed to make sure she kept his secret. Go talk to her, his inner wolf urged. No, I watch. I assess the threat, Rylan shot back. The glass doors slid open. A cool night breeze swept into the room. Adam walked in. He wore a faded denim jacket and a backward baseball cap. He carried a greasy paper bag from the late-night burger joint down the street. The smell of fried potatoes filled the space. Adam was 19 and thought he owned the world. He dropped the bag on the counter with a thud. Dinner is served, Adam said. He pulled out a burger wrapped in silver foil. Thanks, kid, Sandra said. She unwrapped the food and took a big bite. Adam leaned against the front desk. He chewed on a single fry. He scanned the empty lobby. His eyes landed on the tall, muscular guy standing by the plant. Adam nudged Sandra's arm. Hey, who is the weirdo? Which one? Sandra asked with her mouth full. The guy playing statue, Adam whispered. He pointed a fry at Rylan. He is just standing there. Is he in the mob? No, Adam. He is just a guest. He gives me the creeps. He hasn't moved a muscle in 5 minutes. Does he even breathe? Adam narrowed his eyes. Rylan heard every word. His enhanced hearing picked up their whispers with ease. He tightened his jaw. The boy is loud, the wolf complained. He is a teenager, Rylan thought. Teenagers are always loud. Just leave him alone, Sandra told her brother. He has issues, anger stuff maybe. Just don't make eye contact. Adam puffed out his chest. I can take him. Sandra snorted. She almost choked on her burger. You would last 2 seconds against those claws, buddy. Sure you can, Sandra said, but please spare his life tonight. I don't want to clean up the mess. Go fix the jam in the copy machine instead. I am serious, Adam said. He turned his body toward Rylan. He tried to look tough. He crossed his arms over his chest. If he tries anything, I will drop him. Rylan shifted his weight. He took one step forward out of the shadows. The lobby light caught his face. He locked eyes with the teenager. Rylan didn't smile. He just let a tiny bit of yellow bleed into his gaze. Adam froze. His tough guy act vanished. He swallowed hard. On second thought, Adam muttered, the copy machine needs me. I will go check that paper jam. Adam grabbed his burger and rushed toward the back office. The door clicked shut behind him. Sandra rolled her eyes. She wiped her hands on a paper napkin and walked around the desk. She marched straight up to the potted palm. Ryland tensed. Look, Sandra crossed her arms. You need a new hobby. You saw my secret, Ryland said. His voice rumbled deep in his chest. I must monitor you. I must protect my kind. By hiding behind a fake tree? Sandra raised an eyebrow. I get it. You get hairy once a month. Big deal. I wax my legs every 3 weeks. We all have struggles. Rylan stared down at her. You aren't afraid? Dude, I work the night shift in a downtown hotel. Last week a guy tried to pay for a room with a live chicken. A monster dog is just a Tuesday. I won't tell anyone you are a giant pup. Wolf, Rylan corrected. I am an alpha. Great. Alpha of the wolves. Does that mean you get free flea medicine? Sandra grinned. A small smile broke on Rylan's face. He relaxed his broad shoulders. The tension left his body. Go back to your room. Sandra patted his arm. My brother thinks you want to steal my lunch money. Rylan watched her walk back to the desk. Mate is funny, the wolf purred. Rylan didn't argue this time. Chapter 3. The lobby remained dead hours later. Sandra needed a break from the glowing computer screen. She set a small plastic sign on the desk and walked down the back hallway. The vending area sat tucked behind the public restrooms. The ice machine hummed a steady, loud tune. The soda machine glowed bright white in the dim space. The air felt cold back here. Sandra dug a crumpled dollar bill from her pocket. She fed it into the slot. She pushed the big plastic button for a cola. A can thunked down to the bottom rack. She reached in and grabbed the cold metal. As she stood up, a large shadow fell over her. Rylan blocked the exit. He filled the narrow hallway. His shoulders brushed the walls on both sides. He stared down at her with intense, dark eyes. We need to talk, Rylan said. His voice echoed over the hum of the ice machine. Sandra popped the tab on her soda. It hissed. She took a long sip. Talk fast, Sandra said. My break is 10 minutes and I want to spend 5 of them sitting in a chair that doesn't roll. Rylan stepped closer. He tried to use his size to intimidate her. It worked on rival alphas. It worked on stray humans. It did not work on Sandra. You do not understand the danger, Rylan growled. He planted his hands on his hips. What you saw in that room puts a target on your back. The only target on my back is the one my manager put there for being late on Tuesday, Sandra shot back. She has no fear, the wolf whispered in Rylan's mind. She is strong. She is stubborn, Rylan corrected. My kind live in secret for a reason, Rylan said. If the wrong people find out you know about me, they will come for you. I am an alpha. I have enemies. Sandra leaned against the humming ice machine. She took another sip of her drink. So, let me get this straight. You turned into a dog in my hotel. You ruined a good suit. And now you want to act like my personal bodyguard? Wolf, Rylan gritted his teeth. I am a wolf. Same family, different zip code. Sandra waved her free hand. Look, Rylan, I don't care about your enemies. I care about paying my rent. I care about keeping my brother out of trouble. Your secret is safe with me because I lack the energy to care. Rylan blinked. He dropped his hands to his sides. He felt confused. Human women usually ran screaming, or they fainted, or they asked a million frantic questions. Sandra just drank her soda. You are a strange human, Rylan muttered. "And you are a terrible hotel guest," Sandra countered. "You left a broken lamp in your room. Housekeeping is going to charge your card." Ryland felt a weird twist in his chest. He liked her sass. He liked the way she stood her ground. He took a deep breath. The scent of her cheap floral shampoo filled his nose. "Claim her," the wolf demanded. Ryland shoved the thought down. He took a step back and gave her room to breathe. "I will pay for the lamp," Ryland said. "Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have invoices to file." Sandra pushed past him. Her shoulder bumped against his solid chest. She didn't even flinch. Rylan watched her walk down the hall. He stood by the ice machine for a long time. He came down here to scare her into silence. Instead, she scolded him over a piece of broken glass. He smiled. He was hooked. Chapter 4. Adam paced the small back office. He chewed on a plastic pen cap. He could not stop thinking about the weird guy in the lobby. "He is a stalker," Adam muttered to himself. "He just stares at her. That is classic serial killer behavior." Adam tossed the pen cap into the trash can. He cracked his knuckles. He was 19. He was the man of the house. He needed to protect his older sister from hotel creeps. He walked out of the office. He puffed his chest out. He stomped across the lobby floor. His sneakers squeaked on the polished stone. Sandra looked up from her computer screen. She saw her brother marching toward the seating area. "Adam, no!" Sandra warned. Adam ignored her. He marched straight up to the plush leather couch. Rylan sat there. He read a generic travel magazine. He didn't even look up as the teenager approached. "Hey, pal," Adam said. He tried to make his voice sound deep. Rylan flipped a glossy page. "Yes?" "What is your deal?" Adam demanded. He planted his feet apart. "You just hang around all night. You stare at my sister. You give off major creep vibes." Rylan sighed. He closed the magazine and placed it on the glass coffee table. He looked up at the boy. "I am reading about tropical beaches," Rylan said. "It is a public lobby." "Don't play dumb with me," Adam pointed a finger at Rylan's face. "I know guys like you. You think you can just intimidate people. Well, I am not intimidated." The pup barks loud. The inner wolf chuckled. "Let me handle this," Rylan thought. Rylan leaned forward. He rested his elbows on his knees. He let a deep rumble start in his chest. The sound vibrated in the air. It wasn't quite a growl, but it wasn't human either. Adam's finger wavered. He took half a step back. Rylan focused his energy. He let his human facade slip just a fraction of an inch. His dark eyes flared. A bright, glowing yellow flashed in his pupils. It burned like a lit match in a dark room. Adam stopped breathing. All the color drained from his face. His tough guy posture crumbled into pure panic. "Your eyes," Adam choked out. They glowed." Rylan tilted his head. "It is just the bad hotel lighting." No, they glowed like a monster," Adam stammered. His knees knocked together. Sandra rushed out from behind the desk. She grabbed the back of Adam's denim jacket. She yanked him away from the couch. "All right, hero time is over," Sandra said. She dragged her brother backward across the floor. "Sandra, his eyes!" Adam pointed a shaky finger. "I saw them. He is a mutant. He is an alien." "He is just tired, Adam. Go sit in the office and breathe into a paper bag," Sandra commanded. She pushed Adam behind the heavy wooden desk. She shoved him toward the back door. Adam stumbled into the office, still mumbling about glowing alien eyes. Sandra turned around. She put her hands on her hips and glared at Rylan. Rylan sat on the couch. He picked the travel magazine back up. He flipped to a page about boat rentals. A smug smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Did you really have to do that?" Sandra asked. "He asked for my deal," Rylan answered without looking up. "I showed him." Sandra let out a long breath. "You are impossible. Next time just tell him to get lost. Don't do the whole light bulb eye trick. He is going to be talking about aliens for a month." "I will keep that in mind," Rylan said. "She protects her pack," the wolf noted with pride. Rylan agreed. He liked watching her take charge. He settled back into the couch cushions. The hotel lobby felt strangely like home. Chapter 5. Sandra stared at the closed office door. Adam stayed hidden inside. The teenager had not made a peep since his panic attack. Good. She needed peace. She turned her attention back to the computer screen. The glow of the monitor cast harsh shadows across her face. She hit a few keys, finalizing the night audit. The lobby remained still. Across the room, Ryland sat on the leather couch. He held the same travel magazine. He turned a page. The glossy paper made a sharp swish in the quiet space. He acted like he cared about boat rentals in the tropics. Sandra knew better. He was on guard. Mate is stressed, his inner wolf pointed out. She has a business to run, Rylan replied. Stay out of it. The glass front doors slid open with a mechanical hiss. A gust of night air blew into the lobby. It carried the scent of car exhaust and city grime. A man walked through the entrance. He wore a long gray trench coat and heavy, scuffed combat boots. His footsteps hit the polished stone floor with hard, deliberate thuds. He carried no luggage. He did not look like a tourist. He looked like trouble. Ryland stopped turning the page. His back stiffened. His nostrils flared. A new scent hit him, stale smoke and rusted iron. Enemy, the wolf snarled. The beast clawed at the inside of Ryland's mind. Rival. Kill him. Ryland clenched his jaw. He forced his breathing to slow down. He gripped the edges of the magazine. His fingers dented the thick paper. He kept his head down, but his eyes tracked the stranger's every move. The man marched straight to the reception desk. He slapped his hands flat on the counter. He had a jagged white scar running down the left side of his neck. His dark hair looked messy and unwashed. "I need a room," the man demanded. His voice sounded like a rusty hinge. Sandra kept her expression blank. She pulled a blank registration card from a plastic tray. She slid it across the counter along with a black pen. "Welcome to the Grand Hotel," Sandra said. "We have a few standard rooms left. May I have a credit card and an ID, please?" "I pay cash," the man said. He reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a thick roll of $20 bills held together by a thick rubber band. He peeled off several bills and tossed them onto the counter. "The name is Corbin. No ID, just give me a key." Sandra looked at the crumpled cash. She hated walk-ins who paid with cash. They always left the rooms a mess. They smoked inside. They broke the furniture. "Hotel policy requires a photo ID for all cash transactions, sir," Sandra stated. She tapped her pen on the desk. Corbin leaned closer. He planted his elbows on the counter. He invaded her personal space. "Look, sweetheart, I had a long drive. My wallet got stolen at a gas station 3 states back. I just want a bed. Take the money, add a 50 for your trouble." He peeled another bill off the roll and flicked it toward her. "He disrespects her," the wolf growled. "Tear his throat out." "Hold steady," Rylan ordered his beast. He watched from the couch, his muscles coiled tight. He was ready to sprint across the room the second Corbin made a wrong move. Sandra stared at the extra $50 bill. She slid it right back toward Corbin. "Keep the tip, Corbin. I will put you in room 304, but if you trash the place, I will call the police, stolen wallet or not." Corbin smirked. He scooped the 50 back up. "You have a sharp tongue. I like that." Sandra ignored the comment. She typed his fake name into the system. She programmed a plastic key card and handed it over. Corbin took the card. He did not walk to the elevator right away. He turned his head. He scanned the lobby. His gaze swept over the empty chairs and the fake plants. Then, his eyes locked onto Rylan. The two men stared at each other across the distance. The air in the room grew heavy. A silent war raged between them. Corbin stood tall. He puffed out his chest. He let a dominant energy roll off his shoulders. He wanted to pick a fight. He wanted to challenge the alpha sitting on the couch. Rylan did not flinch. He did not stand up. He just sat there and met the challenge with a cold, hard glare. He crushed the magazine in his hands. Corbin broke the eye contact first. He let out a dark chuckle. He turned around and walked toward the guest elevators. He punched the call button. The metal doors opened. Corbin stepped inside and vanished from sight. Rylan tossed the ruined magazine onto the glass table. He stood up and walked over to the reception desk. "You need to go home," Rylan told Sandra. His voice held zero room for debate. "My shift ends at 7 in the morning," Sandra replied. She counted the $20 bills and shoved them into the cash drawer. "That man is dangerous," Rylan warned. "He brings violence." "I figured." Sandra shut the drawer with a loud bang. "He didn't ask for a receipt. The bad guys never ask for receipts." Welcome back to Linas' Romantasy collection, where the alphas bring the danger and the heroines bring the sass. Quick question for the pack before we jump back into the chaos. If you walked in on a giant beast shifting in room 402, what is your first move? Do you run or do you offer him a snack? Let me know in the comments and drop a wolf emoji if you would have thrown that turkey sandwich right at his head. Today's story brings the heat and the humor. It involves a very grumpy runaway alpha and a night shift receptionist who refuses to back down from a fight. Before we jump into Chapter 2, if you want to support the channel and get early access to stories like this, hit that join button down below. It helps keep the lights on and the romance flowing. Now, take a deep breath. The hotel lobby is quiet, but the alpha is on the prowl. Let's continue. Chapter 6. An hour passed. The clock on the wall read 2 in the morning. Sandra sorted a stack of guest mail. She needed a coffee. The elevator bell dinged. The metal doors slid apart. Corbin stepped back into the lobby. He did not look sleepy. He walked with purpose, heading straight for the front desk. Sandra let out a quiet sigh. Here we go. Corbin reached the counter and leaned against it. He flashed a grin. It did not reach his eyes. "Your ice machine on the 3rd floor is broken. Just spits out water." "I will leave a note for maintenance," Sandra said. She grabbed a yellow sticky pad and jotted down a quick reminder. "Anything else?" Corbin drummed his fingers on the surface. "Yeah, it is quiet around here. Do you get a lot of weirdos wandering through on the night shift?" "Only on the weekends," Sandra answered. She did not look up from her notes. "What about that guy?" Corbin pointed a thumb over his shoulder. He gestured toward the empty seating area. Rylan had vanished from the couch 20 minutes ago, seeking better cover. "The big guy with the staring problem. Does he ever sleep?" Sandra played dumb. She stacked the mail into a neat pile. "I see a lot of guys. You will have to be more specific." Corbin dropped the grin. He leaned in closer. Tall, dark hair, looks like he wants to punch a hole through a brick wall. He was sitting right there when I checked in. "Oh, him!" Sandra waved a hand. "Mr. Grumpy. He is just a night owl. He reads travel magazines and complains about the Wi-Fi. It is nothing I cannot handle." Corbin narrowed his eyes. He studied her face. He searched for a lie. Sandra kept her expression flat and bored. She had dealt with paranoid guests before. You just had to act like their drama bored you to tears. Mate is clever, Ryland thought. He stood hidden in the dark hallway leading to the public restrooms. He listened to the entire exchange. His chest swelled with a strange pride. "Right," Corbin muttered. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a crinkled $10 bill. He placed it flat on the desk. "Let's save some time. What room is he in?" Sandra looked at the money. She let out a short laugh. "Sir, a $10 bill does not buy hotel secrets. It barely buys a stale sandwich from the vending machine." Corbin grit his teeth. He pulled out a 50 and slapped it on top of the 10. "Room number." "Hotel policy," Sandra said, pushing the money back to him. "We respect guest privacy. I cannot hand out room numbers. My manager would fire me on the spot." "Your manager isn't here." Corbin pushed the cash toward her again. His tone turned sharp. The fake charm vanished. "Tell me where he sleeps." Sandra met his stare. She did not back down. She grabbed her keyboard and typed a few random letters to make it look like she was searching the system. "Fine," Sandra said. "He is in room 612. Corbin snatched the cash off the desk and shoved it into his pocket. He gave her a final, warning look. Smart girl. He turned and walked toward the stairs instead of the elevator. He pushed the heavy fire door open and disappeared into the stairwell. Ryland stepped out of the dark hallway. He walked up to the desk. He shook his head. "You are a terrible liar," Ryland stated. "I am a fantastic liar," Sandra countered. "This hotel only has 5 floors. Room 612 does not exist. He is going to be walking up and down those stairs looking for a ghost." Rylan paused. A genuine laugh rumbled in his chest. It was a deep, rich sound. It startled Sandra. She had not heard him make a happy noise since he arrived. "He will figure it out," Rylan pointed out. "Let him," Sandra shrugged. "By the time he realizes the roof is above the 5th floor, he will be too tired to cause trouble." "Corbin is never too tired for trouble," Rylan warned. His brief moment of amusement faded. He leaned over the desk. "He is looking for me. He wants to challenge me. If he realizes you are protecting me, he will hurt you." "Then I guess you better make sure he doesn't hurt me," Sandra said. She turned away to file the mail. Rylan watched her. He felt a fierce, burning need to keep her safe. "She is ours to guard," the wolf declared. "Yes," Rylan agreed. "She is." Chapter 7. The hotel ran out of clean pool towels. Sandra found a sticky note from the day shift demanding a fresh batch for the morning swim team. She cursed under her breath. She left the front desk empty. She walked down the back corridor toward the laundry room. The fluorescent tubes above her head buzzed with a broken rhythm. The air smelled of sharp bleach and damp cotton. She carried an empty plastic basket against her hip. The corridor took a sharp left turn. Shadows clung to the corners. Sandra rounded the bend. She bumped right into a solid chest. She stumbled backward. She gripped the plastic basket tight. Corbin stood in the middle of the narrow hallway. He blocked her path. He did not look happy. His outerwear hung open, revealing a dark shirt underneath. "There is no 6th floor," Corbin growled. Sandra kept her face straight. "Did you check the roof? Sometimes the architect gets creative." Corbin stepped forward. He invaded her space. The corridor felt too small. He grabbed the edge of her plastic basket. His knuckles turned white. "You think this is a game?" Corbin lowered his voice. It sounded like scraping metal. "You think you can protect that coward? I came here for his head. I will tear this building apart to get it." Sandra refused to let go of the basket. "Let go. You are trespassing in a staff-only area." "Tell me where he is hiding," Corbin demanded. He yanked the basket. Sandra stumbled forward, but she kept her grip. "Give me the real room number or I start breaking things, starting with you." "Don't show fear," Sandra told herself. "Bullies feed on fear." "You lay a hand on me and I press the panic button on my radio," Sandra lied. She didn't have a radio. "The cops will be here in 3 minutes." Corbin laughed, a cruel, ugly sound. "Cops can't stop me." A large shadow shifted on the wall behind Corbin. Ryland stood at the end of the hall. He made no sound when he walked. He seemed to materialize out of the darkness. His dark shirt stretched tight across his chest. He breathed with quiet, controlled anger. Corbin felt the shift in the air. He turned his head. Rylan closed the distance in 2 massive strides. He did not say a word. He reached out and grabbed Corbin by the shoulder of his trench coat. Rylan squeezed. Hard. Corbin hissed in pain. He dropped his grip on the plastic basket. He spun around to face his rival. Rylan towered over him. The alpha energy rolled off Rylan in dark, heavy waves. It filled the narrow hallway. It suffocated the air. Rylan pulled his lips back. He flashed his fangs. They were sharp and white in the dim light. The human color bled out of his irises. A fierce, predatory gold took over his gaze. Corbin took a step back. His bravado cracked. He recognized pure, lethal force when he saw it. Corbin wanted a fight, but he wanted it on his terms. He did not want to be trapped in a concrete box with a pissed-off alpha defending his territory. "We settle this later," Corbin sneered. He backed away. "You can't hide in this human hotel forever, Rylan. I will wait you out." Corbin turned and walked fast down the hall. He pushed through the fire exit door. The metal slammed shut behind him. The buzzing fluorescent lights felt loud in the silence. Ryland stood still. The yellow faded from his eyes. He forced his fangs to retract. He took a deep breath. He turned to face Sandra. "Are you hurt?" Rylan asked. His rough voice held a trace of panic. "No," Sandra said. She set the plastic basket on the floor. Her hands shook. She hid them behind her back. "He just cornered me. I had it under control." "You did not have it under control," Rylan argued. He stepped closer. He looked her up and down, checking for injuries. "He is a killer. You cannot use sarcasm on a killer." "It worked on you," Sandra pointed out. Rylan stopped. A small huff of air escaped his nose. "I am not a killer. I am just complicated." "Right, complicated." Sandra grabbed the basket again. "Stop flexing, complicated. You are scaring the washing machines." She pushed past him and walked into the laundry room. Rylan watched her go. He ran a hand through his dark hair. She was stubborn. She was reckless, and he was terrified of losing her. Chapter 8. The scuffle happened in the west stairwell. Sandra heard the crash from the front desk. The sound of heavy bodies slamming against sheetrock echoed down the elevator shaft. 10 minutes later, the lobby doors leading to the stairs pushed open. Ryland stumbled out. The fabric on his left sleeve was ripped open. A steady stream of blood dripped down his arm and splashed onto the floor. He gripped his bicep. He breathed heavy. Sandra jumped out of her chair. She ran around the counter. "What happened?" she asked. "A disagreement," Rylan grunted. He leaned against the wall. "Get into the break room," Sandra ordered, "before you bleed all over the lobby carpet. It costs a fortune to clean." Rylan followed her. The staff break room sat behind the manager's office. It featured a scratched table, a humming refrigerator, and a small sink. Sandra pushed Rylan into a plastic chair. He filled the entire seat. She opened the metal cabinet above the sink and pulled out a white plastic first aid kit. She popped the latches. "Take it off," Sandra commanded. Rylan complied. He pulled the ruined garment over his head and tossed it onto the table. Sandra grabbed a square stinging wipe. She tore the foil open. "This is going to hurt." She pressed the wipe against the deep scrape on his arm. Rylan flinched. His muscles jerked. He let out a sharp hiss through his teeth. "Sorry," Sandra muttered. She scrubbed the drying blood away. "Did you win the disagreement?" "I threw him down a flight of stairs," Rylan answered. He watched her hands work. She was gentle but efficient. "He will need time to recover, but he will come back." Sandra tossed the dirty wipe into the trash bin. She unrolled a spool of white gauze. "Why is he trying to kill you? Did you steal his favorite Chew toy?" Rylan looked away. The joke did not land this time. He stared at the humming refrigerator. "Tell her the truth," the wolf pushed. "Trust our mate." Rylan sighed. The fight drained his energy. He dropped the tough guy act. "Corbin wants my pack. He wants to be the alpha. He challenged me for the title." "So fight him," Sandra said. She wrapped the white gauze tight around his thick bicep. "You look like you can handle a fair fight." "It would not be a fair fight," Rylan explained. His voice grew quiet. "If we fought on pack lands, Corbin would bring his thugs. They would destroy everything. They would burn the homes. They would hurt the elders. They would kill the pups to prove a point." Sandra paused. She held the roll of gauze in midair. She looked at his face. The grumpy, aggressive monster was gone. A tired, desperate leader sat in the plastic chair. "You ran away," Sandra realized. "I made myself bait," Rylan corrected her. He met her gaze. "I packed my bags and left the woods. I came to the human city. I checked into this hotel because it is public and crowded. I knew Corbin would follow my scent. I drew him away from the pups. I am keeping the war far away from my people." Sandra taped the end of the bandage down. She felt a sudden tightness in her chest. She had judged him wrong. He wasn't a mobster. He wasn't a thug. He was a protector sacrificing his own safety for his family. "You brought the war here instead," Sandra said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I never meant to involve you," Rylan said. He reached out and grabbed her wrist. His touch was warm. His calloused thumb brushed against her skin. "I thought humans would just run away. I thought I would handle Corbin in the parking lot and leave. I did not expect you." Sandra looked down at his hand holding her wrist. Her heart did a strange flutter. "Well, you got me," Sandra said. She pulled her hand back, but she did not step away. "And my annoying brother. And a broken lamp." Rylan offered a weak smile. "I will pay for the lamp." "You better." Sandra closed the first aid kit. She turned around to put it back in the metal cabinet. "So, what is the plan now? You can't just keep throwing him down the stairs. Soon enough, he will figure out how to use the elevator." "I have to trap him," Ryland stated. "I have to end the challenge on neutral ground." "Good," Sandra shut the cabinet door. "Because I have a hotel to run, and your family drama is terrible for business." Chapter 9. Sandra closed the break room door. She left Ryland sitting in the plastic chair. His chest was bare, white gauze wrapped tight around his left bicep. "Do not move," Sandra told him. "Do not break anything else. I need to check the desk." Rylan gave a short nod. He closed his eyes. Sandra walked down the corridor. She reached the main reception area. The space sat empty. She peeked behind the counter. The back office door stood wide open. The swivel chair spun in slow circles. Adam was gone. "Idiot," Sandra hissed. She jogged to the glass front entrance. She peered through the smudged panes. The streetlights cast orange pools on the pavement. A figure moved near the entrance of the attached parking garage. It was a man in a gray coat. Corbin. He walked with a heavy limp. His right leg dragged a fraction of an inch. Ryland did some real damage in the stairwell. 50 feet behind Corbin, another figure ducked behind a concrete planter. A backward baseball cap, a faded denim jacket. Adam. Sandra pushed the glass doors open. The night air hit her face. It felt crisp and cold. She sprinted across the pavement. She kept her footsteps light. She did not want to alert the killer up ahead. Corbin disappeared into the dark mouth of the parking structure. Adam followed him. "Adam, stop," Sandra whispered to the empty air. She reached the garage entrance. The structure felt like a cave. Thick cement pillars held up the low ceiling. Puddles of dirty water collected in the uneven floor dips. A flickering fluorescent tube buzzed high above. Sandra hugged the wall. She edged her way down the sloped ramp. Ahead of her, Adam crept along the line of parked cars. He thought he was a spy. He moved from a rusted sedan to a dusty pickup truck. He kept his eyes fixed on Corbin's back. Corbin headed for the lower level. He walked toward the trash area. 4 massive metal dumpsters sat in the shadows. Sandra moved faster. Her flat work shoes slapped against the damp cement. She needed to reach her brother before Corbin realized he had a tail. A predator always knows when it is being hunted. Adam peeked around the tailgate of the pickup truck. He took a step out into the open driving lane. He wanted a better look. Up ahead, Corbin stopped walking. His back went rigid. He tilted his head to the side. He was listening. He was sniffing the air. Sandra lunged. She grabbed the collar of Adam's jacket. She yanked him backward with all her strength. Adam stumbled. He let out a surprised gasp. Sandra slapped her hand over his mouth. She dragged him behind a thick cement pillar just as Corbin whipped around. Sandra pressed her back against the cold, rough stone. She held Adam tight against her chest. She kept her hand clamped over his lips. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a jackhammer. Footsteps echoed in the garage. Corbin was walking back up the ramp. He was looking for the source of the noise. Sandra held her breath. Adam squeezed his eyes shut. The teenager trembled. The heavy boots stopped just on the other side of the pillar, a foot away. Sandra could hear Corbin breathing. The sound was ragged and wet. Silence stretched for 10 agonizing seconds. Then, the boots turned. The footsteps faded as Corbin resumed his walk toward the dumpsters. Sandra let out a slow breath. She moved her hand from Adam's mouth. "Are you insane?" Sandra whispered. Her voice shook with anger. "He is a killer!" "I wanted to see where he was going," Adam defended himself. He kept his voice low. "He was asking about the weird guy. I thought I could get proof." "This isn't a movie, Adam. You get proof, you get dead." Sandra grabbed his arm. "We are going back inside, right now." Before they could move, a deep snarl echoed from the bottom of the ramp. It did not sound human. Sandra froze. That sound belonged to a nightmare. Adam went rigid. "What was that?" "Nothing," Sandra lied. "Keep moving." She shoved him toward the exit ramp, but another sound stopped them in their tracks. A loud crash of metal. Something heavy hit the green dumpsters. Sandra looked over her shoulder. The shadows near the trash area shifted. "Sandra, let's go," Adam pleaded. He pulled on her sleeve. All his bravado was gone. The reality of the dark garage terrified him. "Wait," Sandra said. She recognized a shape stepping into the dim light. Rylan. He walked down the ramp. He had tracked Sandra's scent. He ignored her order to stay in the break room. His chest remained bare. The white bandage glowed in the bad lighting. He placed himself right between the dumpsters and the pillar where Sandra hid. He was shielding them. Corbin stepped out from behind the trash bins. The two men faced each other in the gloom. "Get out of here, Adam," Sandra commanded. "Run back to the lobby. Lock the doors." "I am not leaving you," the boy argued. "Do it!" Sandra gave him a hard shove. Adam stumbled up the ramp. He cast one terrified look back, then sprinted for the glass doors. Sandra stayed. She refused to leave Rylan alone with a murderer. She peeked around the rough concrete edge. She watched the two men circle each other in the dark. Chapter 10. Corbin let out a dark chuckle. The sound bounced off the concrete ceiling. He stood in front of the rusted metal dumpsters. He rolled his stiff shoulders. "I knew you would come out of your cage," Corbin taunted. "You cannot resist playing the hero, even for human trash." Ryland stood 10 feet away. He did not take the bait. He kept his stance wide and grounded. His bare chest rose and fell with steady, measured breaths. The white gauze on his arm stood out in the gloom. "Leave the humans out of this," Ryland said. His voice carried a deep, threatening rumble. "Your fight is with me. End this challenge now. Go back to your own territory." "My territory?" Corbin spat on the damp cement. "I want your territory. I want your pack, and I am going to take it tonight." Corbin reached deep into the pockets of his outer coat. He pulled out a pair of thick riding gloves. They were heavy, black cowhide. He slid them onto his hands, pulling the tough material tight over his fingers. Rylan narrowed his eyes. "Weapons," his wolf warned. "He brings trickery." Corbin reached into his pocket a second time. He pulled out a piece of polished metal. It caught the flickering light of the overhead tube. Brass knuckles, but they were not brass. They shined with a pure, bright, white-hot gleam. Silver, pure silver. "You know the old rules, Rylan," Corbin smiled. His jagged neck scar stretched tight. "An alpha challenge ends when one man yields, or when one man dies. I brought a little help to make sure you die." Corbin slipped the silver weapon over his leather-clad fingers. The thick cowhide protected his own skin from the burning metal. He clenched his fist. The silver rings locked into place. Rylan let out a warning growl. He let the human mask slip. His dark irises bled away, replaced by that fierce, predatory gold. His fingernails elongated, forming sharp, curved points. Corbin lunged forward. He moved fast for a man with a limp. Rylan dodged to the left. He aimed a sweeping strike at Corbin's ribs. His claws tore through the gray fabric of the coat. Corbin ignored the strike. He twisted his body and swung his right fist. The silver knuckles slammed into Ryland's bare shoulder. A loud sizzle cracked through the air. It sounded like raw meat thrown onto a hot grill. Rylan roared in agony. He stumbled backward. White smoke curled up from his skin where the silver made contact. The metal seared his flesh, leaving a black, charred burn mark. The pain ripped through his body, stealing the breath from his lungs. His knees buckled. He dropped to one knee, clutching his shoulder. "Get up!" his inner wolf screamed. Corbin laughed. He stepped forward, raising the silver fist for a killing blow to the head. Sandra moved. She did not think. She just acted. She bolted from behind the cement pillar. She sprinted toward the wall near the dumpsters. A bright red fire extinguisher hung on a metal hook. She grabbed the cold cylinder. It was heavy. She yanked it off the wall. She ripped the safety pin out with one hard pull. Corbin swung his fist down. Sandra aimed the black rubber hose. She squeezed the metal handle with both hands. A massive cloud of thick, white chemical foam exploded from the nozzle. The blast hit Corbin directly in the face. The force of the spray blinded him. The bitter, choking foam filled his mouth and nose. He dropped his silver-clad fist. He clawed at his own eyes, coughing and sputtering. Sandra kept the spray going. She coated Corbin in white foam until the extinguisher sputtered empty. She dropped the heavy red tank. It clattered on the cement. She grabbed Ryland's uninjured arm. "Get up!" Sandra yelled. "Run!" Ryland fought through the burning pain. He forced himself to his feet. He leaned heavy on Sandra. Corbin roared blind in the background. He swung his silver fist at empty air. "I will kill you both." Sandra ignored the threats. She wrapped Ryland's massive arm over her shoulders. She guided him up the parking ramp. They left the damp, echoing garage behind. They burst through the glass doors of the lobby. Adam stood near the front desk. He held a heavy metal stapler like a weapon. He saw them coming. "We have to go," Sandra told her brother. "He is coming. We are leaving the hotel." "Where?" Adam panicked. "My place," Sandra said. "Move!" They pushed through the rear exit doors. They spilled out into the dark, quiet alleyway behind the hotel. They had to disappear before the foam cleared from Corbin's eyes. Chapter 11. The run down the alley felt like a marathon. Sandra dragged Rylan forward. The large man leaned hard against her side. His breathing sounded ragged. The smell of charred flesh clung to him. "Keep moving," Sandra urged. "It is just 2 more blocks." Adam sprinted ahead of them. He kept checking his shoulder, terrified the foam-covered killer was right behind them. They reached a small brick apartment building. Sandra dug into her uniform pocket. Her fingers shook. She pulled out a brass key. She jammed it into the heavy front door and twisted. The lock gave way. They spilled into the narrow hallway. Sandra guided Rylan up one flight of stairs. They reached door 2B. Another key turn. The door swung inward. Sandra pushed Rylan inside. Adam scrambled in right after them. Sandra slammed the door shut and threw the deadbolt. She latched the chain lock for good measure. "Living room, couch," Sandra ordered. Rylan stumbled forward. He collapsed onto a faded floral sofa. The small piece of furniture groaned under his weight. He rested his head against the back cushion and closed his eyes. The apartment was tiny. A small rug covered the scuffed hardwood floor. A single bookshelf held a few paperbacks and a dying houseplant. The space felt even smaller with a giant injured man bleeding on the cushions. Adam paced the floor. He tugged at the brim of his backward cap. He was hyperventilating. "What was that?" Adam demanded. His voice cracked. "Sandra, what just happened? He had glowing rings, and he burned him. It smelled like a barbecue. Who are these people?" Sandra walked to the kitchen counter. It was 3 steps away from the sofa. She needed to calm her brother down before he called the police. She needed a lie, a good one. "Adam, sit down," Sandra commanded. "I am not sitting down," Adam shouted. "A guy in a trench coat just tried to murder a hotel guest by the dumpsters. I saw the metal sizzle. Tell me what is going on." Sandra crossed her arms. She looked her brother right in the eye. He is a witness. Adam stopped pacing. A witness? Yes, Sandra lied. Her voice remained steady and firm. His name is Rylan. He is a key witness in a major federal trial. The guy in the coat? He is a hitman for a crime syndicate. They want to silence Rylan before he can testify. Rylan cracked one eye open. He listened to the story. She spins a good tale, his wolf observed. Rylan stayed quiet. He let her handle the panic. A hitman? Adam swallowed hard. Like the mob? Exactly like the mob, Sandra nodded. That is why Rylan was hiding at our hotel. It was supposed to be a safe house, but the hitman found him. What about the glowing rings? Adam asked. The metal burned his skin. Sandra did not miss a beat. Chemical weapons. The mob uses acid-laced brass knuckles to leave untraceable burns. It is a known tactic. Adam stared at her. His 19-year-old brain tried to process the information. He watched too many action movies. The mobster story fit the violent chaos he just witnessed perfectly. Acid knuckles, Adam repeated. He rubbed his face. Okay, that makes sense. But why didn't he go to the police? Corrupt cops, Sandra improvised. The syndicate has people inside the department. If we call the police, they will just send another hitman. We have to keep him hidden here until his federal handlers contact him. Adam let out a long breath. The panic left his eyes, replaced by a grim determination. The teenager loved a good conspiracy. All right, Adam said. He puffed his chest out. I will lock the windows. I will check the fire escape. Nobody gets in here without going through me. Good job, Sandra encouraged him. Go check the bedroom window lock. Adam hurried down the short hallway to the single bedroom. He closed the door behind him. Sandra let out a heavy sigh. She dropped her arms. The adrenaline crash hit her like a punch to the stomach. She leaned against the kitchen counter. Rylan opened both eyes. He looked at her from the floral couch. Acid-laced brass knuckles? Rylan asked. His voice was rough with pain, but a trace of amusement hid in the tone. Shut up, Sandra muttered. It worked. He thinks you are a hero fighting the mob. Try not to ruin it by howling at the moon. Ryland shifted his weight on the cushions. He grimaced. The burn on his shoulder looked terrible. The flesh was black and blistered. Sandra pushed off the counter. I need to clean that. Don't move. Chapter 12. Sandra walked to the tiny bathroom. She opened the medicine cabinet. She grabbed a bottle of rubbing alcohol, a fresh roll of white cotton bandages, and a tube of burn cream. She returned to the living room. Rylan had not moved from his spot in the living room. His golden eyes tracked her every step. The fierce predator gaze was gone. He just looked exhausted. Sandra knelt on the scuffed hardwood floor next to the couch. She unscrewed the cap of the rubbing alcohol. This is going to sting, Sandra warned. Just do it, Rylan grunted. She poured a small amount of the clear liquid onto a cotton pad. She dabbed at the edges of the charred flesh. The silver burn was deep. Rylan's jaw tightened. The muscles in his neck strained, but he did not make a sound. Sandra worked fast. She applied a thick layer of white burn cream over the black blister. Then, she wrapped the fresh cotton bandage over his shoulder, securing it across his broad chest. There, Sandra said. She rocked back on her heels. It will not heal it, but it will keep the dirt out. Thank you, Rylan said. His voice was low. He stared down at her. Sandra felt a sudden warmth in her cheeks. She stood up fast. She grabbed the medical supplies and set them on the small coffee table. I am going to make coffee, Sandra announced. It is going to be a long night. She stepped into the cramped kitchen area. She grabbed a glass pot and filled it with tap water. She poured the water into the cheap plastic coffee maker. She scooped some generic grounds into the paper filter and hit the power switch. The machine began to hiss and spit. Rylan watched her from the couch. He watched the way she moved. She was practical. She was brave. She did not fall apart when the violence started. She ran toward the danger with a fire extinguisher. She is perfect, his inner wolf purred. The beast paced inside his mind. She protected the pack. She protected us. Claim her now. No, Rylan argued back. He closed his eyes to block out the sight of her. Look at this apartment. Look at her life. She works the night shift to pay rent and keep her brother safe. She deserves a quiet, safe life. We can give her safety, the wolf countered. We are the alpha. We brought a killer to her door, Rylan reminded the beast. Silver burns and dark alleys, that is what we bring. The coffee maker finished its loud, dripping cycle. The smell of roasted beans filled the small room. Sandra pulled 2 mismatched ceramic mugs from a cupboard. She filled them to the brim. She walked back into the living room and handed 1 mug to Rylan. He took it with his good hand. Their fingers brushed. A jolt of static electricity snapped between them. Sandra pulled her hand back. She sat down on the edge of a wooden dining chair opposite the couch. She blew on the hot liquid. So, Sandra broke the silence, the mob witness is safe for now, but Corbin knows what you look like. He knows my face. We cannot go back to the hotel. I will handle Corbin, Rylan promised. He took a sip of the bitter black coffee. I need to rest for a few hours. Then I will track him. I will finish the challenge. With 1 good arm? Sandra pointed at the bandage. Corbin had gloves. He can handle the silver. You cannot even touch it. If you fight him again, he will kill you. Rylan set the mug on the table. He leaned forward. I have no choice, Sandra. If I die, my pack is safe. The challenge ends with me. He will claim the title, but he will not slaughter the pups. Sandra stared at him. She hated the defeat in his voice. She hated that he was willing to throw his life away. You are an idiot, Sandra said. Rylan blinked. Excuse me? You are an idiot, she repeated. She set her mug down next to his. You do not walk into a rigged fight and just let the bad guy win. You cheat. Rylan let out a rough laugh. Werewolves do not cheat in an alpha challenge. It is against the old laws. I do not care about your furry old laws. Sandra leaned forward. Her eyes burned with fierce determination. He brought silver brass knuckles. That is cheating. So we are going to cheat right back. We are going to set a trap. Rylan stared at the human woman sitting across from him. She was serious. She wanted to help him kill a rival alpha. The invisible tether between them pulled taut, anchoring him to her. She is ours, the wolf declared. Rylan did not argue this time. He just nodded. All right, we set a trap. Chapter 13. Sandra stood behind the front desk. Her next night shift had started. The day manager gave her a final warning for running out the back door yesterday. She claimed a family emergency. She needed this job. The rent was due in 4 days, and excuses did not pay the landlord. She left Adam at her apartment. She told her brother to watch their federal witness and keep the deadbolt locked. She felt sick leaving them alone, but she had bills to pay. The hotel entrance slid open. 3 men walked inside. Corbin led the group. His face looked raw. His skin was bright red and irritated from the chemical fire foam. He limped on his right leg. The stairwell fall still caused him pain. 2 new men flanked him. One had a shaved head and a thick neck. He walked like a bulldozer, ready to crush anything in his path. The other man had a silver ring pierced through his nose and dark ink covering his knuckles. Trent and Derek. Corbin brought his backup to the city. Sandra did not flinch. She kept her hands on the keyboard. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she locked her face into a blank stare. Corbin stopped in the center of the room. He scanned the empty space. Where is the coward? Checkout time is 11 in the morning, Sandra said. You missed him. Corbin stepped closer to the reception counter. He slammed his hands flat on the surface. Do not lie to me. I know he is still in this city. I can smell his fear. I smell cheap cologne and bad decisions, Sandra shot back. Buy a room or get out. Corbin narrowed his bloodshot eyes. He turned his head and nodded at his men. Trent grabbed a wooden side chair near the window. He raised it high above his head. He slammed it down against the polished stone floor. The wood splintered into jagged, sharp pieces. The loud crack echoed through the large room. Derek walked over to the guest sofa. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a switchblade. The metal snapped open. He drove the blade into the leather cushion and ripped it sideways. White stuffing exploded out of the gash. Sandra flinched at the noise, but she held her ground. "Stop breaking the furniture," Sandra ordered. Trent kicked the broken chair legs across the room. Derek moved to the center table. He flipped it over. The glass shattered into 1,000 tiny shards. Corbin turned back to Sandra. A cruel smile stretched across his red, irritated face. "This is just a warning. Tell your stray dog I am done waiting. He cannot hide behind a human skirt forever." Sandra reached out and picked up the black landline phone. She punched the number 9, then the number 1, then the number 1 again. She held her finger over the green call button. "This hotel has security cameras," Sandra said. Her voice rang clear and loud over the sound of breaking glass. "You have 10 seconds to walk out those doors before I press send. The police station is 3 blocks away. They will arrive in 2 minutes. Corbin's smile vanished. He hated human police. They complicated pack business. They asked too many questions. "You tell Rylan he has until tomorrow night," Corbin growled, "or I start tearing humans apart." He spun around on his scuffed combat boots. He marched toward the exit. Trent and Derek dropped their weapons and followed their alpha. The glass doors slid open, and the 3 men disappeared into the dark street. Sandra let out a shaky breath. She placed the phone back on the receiver. She looked at the ruined lobby. Stuffing and broken glass covered the floor. The day manager was going to have a heart attack. She walked out from behind the desk. She grabbed a plastic broom from the supply closet. She started sweeping the glass into a pile. Her hands shook. The danger was real. The warning was clear. Corbin wanted a war, and he planned to wage it right here in her workplace. Just another Tuesday, she told herself. She gripped the broom handle tighter. She needed a plan. Chapter 14. The back office felt cramped. Sandra tossed the broken chair pieces into the alley dumpster. She sat in the swivel chair and rubbed her tired eyes. The lobby was as clean as she could get it. A quiet thud came from the open window. Sandra spun around. Ryland dropped from the windowsill into the office. He landed on his feet without making a sound. He stood tall in the dim light. "Are you insane?" Sandra hissed. "I told you to stay at the apartment." "You left," Rylan argued. He walked closer. "You walked right back into the hunting ground. I could not stay away." Mate is safe. His inner wolf purred with relief. She is reckless, Rylan thought back. "I have a job," Sandra stood up. "I cannot just hide under my bed. Corbin came here tonight. He brought friends. They trashed the lobby." Rylan clenched his jaw. Anger flared in his chest. "Did they hurt you?" "No," Sandra crossed her arms. "I threatened to call the cops. They ran, but Corbin left a message. He wants to end the challenge tomorrow night. If we do not face him, he starts hunting people." Rylan leaned against the metal filing cabinet. He looked exhausted. The trap needed to happen now. "We fight," Rylan stated. "We use your idea. We cheat the rules. Where do we trap them?" Sandra walked over to a corkboard hanging on the wall. She pulled down a printed map of the hotel layout. She spread the paper out on the desk. She pointed a finger at a large square labeled basement storage. "Here," Sandra said. "The basement. It has concrete walls and brick pillars. It is a dead end. There is only one staircase leading down. No windows, no back exits. If we lure them down there, they cannot surround you." Ryland studied the map. He noted the narrow entry point. It was a perfect choke point. "I stand at the bottom of the stairs," Ryland planned. "They have to come at me one at a time." "Right," Sandra agreed. "And I will hide behind the brick pillars. They will focus on you. They will not look for me in the dark." Ryland shook his head. "No, you stay up here. You lock the doors. The basement is too small. If the fight turns bad, you will have no room to run." I am not running, Sandra glared at him. She planted her hands on her hips. Corbin has silver knuckles. His goons probably have silver blades. You cannot touch them. You need me down there to even the odds. It is my fight, Ryland demanded. His alpha instincts demanded he protect her. He stepped into her personal space. He loomed over her, trying to force her to back down. Sandra did not retreat an inch. She tilted her head up and met his gaze. It became my fight the second they wrecked my lobby, Sandra whispered. You need backup. I am your backup. Rylan stared into her eyes. The space between them crackled with tension. He could hear her heartbeat. It was fast but steady. She was stubborn, fierce, and entirely fearless. She is a warrior, the wolf declared with pride.
Let her fight.
Rylan let out a long breath. He reached out. His fingers brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was gentle. It was a stark contrast to his rough exterior. You bring pepper spray, Rylan compromised. You blind the thugs. I handle Corbin. If I yell for you to run, you do not argue. You run. Sandra felt a jolt of heat from his touch. She swallowed hard. Deal. I spray, you punch, we all go home. Chapter 15. Adam hated sitting still. The tiny apartment felt like a prison. He paced the worn rug for 2 hours. He kept checking his phone. Sandra ignored his texts. She is dealing with hitmen alone, Adam muttered. I should be there. I am the man of the house. He made a decision. He grabbed his keys. He locked the apartment door behind him and ran down the stairs. He caught the late-night bus heading downtown. He needed to check on his sister. He wanted to prove he was brave enough to handle the danger. Back at the hotel, Rylan sat at the office desk. Sandra went to check the front doors. Rylan picked up a blue plastic pen. He grabbed a blank notepad. He started sketching the basement layout. He needed to memorize the distances between the brick pillars. He needed to know exactly how much room he had to dodge a silver blade. A sharp spike of agony shot through his shoulder. Rylan let out a choked gasp. The burn cream wore off. The blistered flesh throbbed with a toxic, burning ache. The silver poison fought against his natural healing abilities. He closed his eyes. He tried to breathe through the pain. He gripped the plastic pen tighter. His control slipped. The pain triggered his defensive instincts. His body thought it was under attack. His human facade fractured. The bones in his hand popped and lengthened. Thick, dark fur sprouted across his knuckles. His fingernails elongated, turning into thick, sharp, curved claws. The sharp points dug into the plastic pen. The blue casing cracked. Ink spilled over his furry fingers and stained the paper. Rylan opened his eyes. He stared at his transformed hand. He tried to force the shift back down, but the pain clouded his focus. The back door to the office clicked open. Adam stepped inside. Sandra, I brought some... Adam stopped dead in his tracks. The words died in his throat. He looked at the man sitting at the desk. He looked at the giant, furry hand. He saw the razor-sharp claws dripping with blue ink. Rylan snapped his head up. His human eyes were gone, replaced by the unnatural, blazing heat of the beast. Adam dropped his car keys. They hit the floor with a loud jingle. His brain short-circuited. The mobster story shattered into a million pieces. Hitmen used guns. Hitmen used acid. Hitmen did not have giant animal claws. The glowing eyes from the lobby flashed in his memory. Monster, Adam whispered. All the blood rushed from his head. His vision went blurry. His knees gave out. Adam collapsed like a sack of rocks. He hit the floor face first and passed out cold. Rylan winced. He forced his claws to retract. The fur faded away. His hand returned to normal, though it remained covered in blue ink. Sandra walked into the office. She stopped and stared at her brother lying on the carpet. She looked up at Rylan. Did you hit him? Sandra asked. No. Rylan held up his ink-stained hands. He saw the claws. He fainted again. Sandra let out a long, exhausted groan. She walked over to her brother and nudged his shoulder with her flat shoe. He did not move. Great, Sandra muttered. Now I have to explain werewolves to a teenager. Chapter 16. Adam woke up with a pounding headache. He groaned. The carpet smelled like dust and old coffee. He rolled onto his back and opened his eyes. Sandra stood over him. She held a cold, damp paper towel. She pressed it against his forehead. "Welcome back to the land of the living," Sandra said. Adam blinked. The memory of the furry hand hit him like a freight train. He scrambled backward, pushing himself against the office wall. He pointed a shaking finger at Rylan, who sat quietly in the swivel chair. "He is a werewolf," Adam yelled. "The glowing eyes, the claws, the dog jokes. He is a literal monster." "Wolf," Rylan corrected him calmly. "Adam, stop screaming," Sandra ordered. She grabbed his arm and pulled him up to a sitting position. "Yes, he is a werewolf. The mobster story was a lie. Corbin is a rival wolf leader. They are fighting over territory." Adam rubbed his face. He pulled his backward cap off and ran a hand through his hair. "I cannot believe this. Monsters are real. They are fighting in the parking lot. You lied to me." "I lied to keep you safe," Sandra explained. "I wanted you to stay away from the crossfire." Adam looked at Rylan. He remembered the parking garage. He remembered Corbin raising the silver rings for a killing blow. He remembered Rylan stepping in front of the pillar to shield them from the killer. The giant monster took a burning hit to protect a stranger. Adam stopped shaking. The fear drained away, replaced by a sudden spark of adrenaline. He stood up. He dusted off his worn coat. He looked Rylan in the eye. "So," Adam asked, "what is the plan?" Sandra frowned. "The plan is you take the bus back to the apartment and lock the door." "No," Adam shook his head. "I am staying. You guys are going to fight a pack of mutant wolves. You need numbers. I am part of this now." "Adam, you fainted 30 seconds ago," Sandra pointed out. "I was surprised," Adam defended himself. "I am fine now. I watched 100 survival documentaries. I know how to set a trap. I can help." Rylan watched the teenager. He saw the familiar, stubborn fire. It was the exact same fire he saw in Sandra. The boy lacked physical strength, but he possessed genuine courage. He wanted to defend his sister. "The pup wants to join the pack," the inner wolf noticed. "He is brave," Rylan agreed. "He stays," Rylan declared. Sandra whipped her head around. "Excuse me?" "We need a distraction," Rylan explained. He stood up and grabbed the ink-stained map. "Corbin has 2 thugs, Trent and Derek. If Adam can create a loud noise near the top of the stairs, it will draw their attention away from the basement floor. It gives me a crucial opening to strike." Adam grinned. He puffed his chest out. "I can make noise. I can throw firecrackers. I can smash a window." Sandra looked back and forth between the 2 men. They were both insane, but she saw the determination in her brother's eyes. She could not force him to leave. If she sent him away, he would just sneak back in and get himself killed. "Fine," Sandra threw her hands in the air. "You stay at the top of the stairs. You do not go down to the basement. You throw something heavy, and then you run outside." Adam nodded sharp and fast. "Got it! Hit and run!" Rylan wiped the dried blue ink from his right hand with a rag and extended it. Adam looked at the hand, hesitated for a second, and then reached out to shake it. Rylan gripped the boy's hand firm and gave a single nod of respect. The Alpha accepted the human into the fight. The team was ready. Tomorrow night, the hotel basement would turn into a war zone. Chapter 17. The grandfather clock in the corner of the lobby struck 2 in the morning. The deep chimes echoed through the empty ground floor. Sandra stood behind the reception counter. Her palms sweat. She wiped them on her uniform slacks. The space in front of her remained a disaster zone. White cushion stuffing drifted across the polished stone floor like dirty snow. Jagged wood splinters from the smashed guest chair sat in a pile near the window. The hotel manager refused to let anyone clean the mess until the insurance adjuster took photographs. Sandra checked her wristwatch. The silence felt heavy. She hated waiting. He is close, a voice whispered in the back of her mind. It was not her own thought. It felt like an echo from Rylan. The mate bond tethered them together, humming with quiet static. The glass entrance doors slid open with a mechanical hiss. Corbin walked in. The chemical burns on his face looked worse tonight. The skin peeled in angry red patches around his jawline. He favored his right leg, dragging the combat boot just a fraction of an inch across the floorboards. Trent and Derek flanked him. Trent cracked his thick knuckles. Derek chewed on a toothpick, his silver nose ring catching the dim lobby light. "Time is up," Corbin announced. His rusty hinge voice grated against Sandra's ears. "Where is the coward?" Sandra forced her hands to tremble. She widened her eyes. She needed to sell the lie. She backed away from the counter, bumping into the wall behind her. "He is downstairs," Sandra stammered. She pitched her voice an octave higher to mimic pure panic. "He locked himself in the basement storage room. He told me to stay away." Corbin let out a cruel, barking laugh. "Hiding in a cellar. Pathetic." He turned his head and nodded to his thugs. "Let's go dig him out." The three men stomped past the reception desk. They headed for the heavy metal fire door that led to the lower levels. Sandra waited until they pushed through the doorway. Then she bolted. She ran down the employee corridor, taking a shortcut through the staff kitchen. She pushed through a swinging door and reached the top of the basement stairs just as Corbin's group started their descent on the main staircase. Adam crouched in the shadows near the top landing. He held a rusted metal trash can filled with empty glass soda bottles. He wore his worn jean coat pulled tight against the chill. He gave his sister a sharp nod. He was ready. Sandra slipped past him. She hurried down the steep concrete steps. The air grew cold and damp. The basement storage room stretched out in front of her. Thick brick support columns broke up the vast, gloomy space. Cardboard boxes stacked 10 feet high created a maze of narrow aisles. A single caged light bulb hung from the ceiling, casting long, eerie shadows. Ryland stood in the center of the room. He waited in the patch of dim yellow light. He wore his dark jeans. His torso remained bare. The white cotton bandage wrapped across his chest looked stark against his skin. Sandra darted behind a sturdy brick column. She pulled the black canister of police-grade pepper spray from her pocket. She flipped the safety latch off with her thumb. Footsteps echoed on the concrete stairs. Corbin, Trent, and Derek stepped into the basement. They fanned out, blocking the only exit. "End of the line, Rylan," Corbin sneered. He reached into his gray coat. He pulled out the black cowhide riding gloves. He slid them over his hands, pulling the tough leather tight. Then he retrieved the polished metal weapon. The silver rings gleamed under the solitary bulb. He locked them over his protected knuckles. Trent pulled a heavy steel crowbar from his belt. Derek flicked his wrist, and a long hunting knife caught the light. "Yield the pack," Corbin demanded, "or die in this hole." Ryland did not speak. He let his human restraints snap. The transformation tore through him. Bones cracked and reshaped with sickening pops. His spine elongated, his jaw stretched forward into a lethal snout. A coarse, midnight black pelt erupted from his skin, ripping his denim jeans to shreds at the seams. He grew a full 2 feet in height, towering over the rivals as a massive bipedal beast. His eyes ignited. The human irises vanished, replaced by pools of liquid fire. He opened his jaws, revealing rows of dagger-sharp fangs. Curved, bone-white talons slid from his fingertips, scraping against the cement floor. "Protect the mate, kill the threat," his inner wolf roared, taking full control. Rylan let out a deafening, chest-rattling howl. The sound bounced off the concrete walls, shaking the cardboard boxes. It was a promise of absolute violence. Corbin did not flinch. He raised his silver-clad fist. "Skin him alive!" The three men charged. The trap was sprung. Chapter 18. The basement erupted into chaos. Trent led the charge. The bald man swung the heavy steel crowbar in a wide arc, aiming for Ryland's knee. Before the metal could connect, a deafening crash shattered the tension. At the top of the stairs, Adam hurled the rusted metal trash can down the concrete steps. 30 empty glass soda bottles cascaded downward in a violent, thunderous avalanche. The glass shattered against the walls and stairs, creating an ear-splitting racket. Trent and Derek froze. The sudden, chaotic noise hijacked their primal senses. They spun around, looking back up the dark stairwell, expecting an ambush from behind. It was the opening Rylan needed. The giant wolf lunged. He backhanded Trent with a sweeping strike. The blow launched the bald thug through the air. Trent slammed into a stack of cardboard boxes, burying himself under an avalanche of old hotel receipts. Derek turned back around, thrusting his hunting knife forward. Sandra stepped out from behind the brick column. She did not hesitate. She raised her arm, pointed the black canister at Derek's face, and pressed the trigger. A concentrated stream of orange chemical liquid shot across the gap. It hit Derek square in the eyes. Derek dropped his knife. The blade clattered on the cement floor. He shrieked, clawing at his face. The pepper spray burned like battery acid. It seeped into his nose and mouth, choking him. He stumbled backward, completely blind, thrashing his arms in the air.
"You little rat!"
Corbin bellowed. He saw Sandra step out from her hiding spot. He ignored the wolf and pivoted toward the human woman. He raised the silver knuckles, ready to crush her skull. Sandra backpedaled, trying to keep the brick pillar between them. Corbin's long legs closed the distance in 2 strides. "Mine," the inner beast snarled. Rylan intercepted the rival leader. The black wolf tackled Corbin from the side. The impact sounded like 2 cars colliding. They hit the concrete floor in a tangle of limbs and teeth. Sandra pressed her back against the rough brick. She watched Derek crawl on his hands and knees, weeping from the chemical burn. Trent groaned from under the pile of boxes, unable to stand. Her part of the job was done. She leveled the playing field. Now, the alphas had to finish it. Corbin kicked his boot up, catching Rylan in the stomach. He shoved the giant wolf off his chest. Both men scrambled to their feet. Corbin's breath came in ragged gasps. The foam burns on his face stretched taut. Rylan circled his opponent. He kept his weight low, favoring his uninjured side. The white bandage around his chest hung in tatters, ruined by the transformation. The blistered skin underneath pulsed with a toxic ache, but the adrenaline masked the worst of the pain. "She fights your battles for you?" Corbin taunted. He kept his fists raised, leading with the silver rings. "You are weak." Rylan snapped his jaws. He lunged forward, feinting a high attack. Corbin swung the silver knuckles, aiming for Rylan's snout. Rylan dropped his weight instantly. He ducked under the lethal, burning metal. He drove his shoulder straight into Corbin's chest. The impact lifted the rival off his feet. Rylan drove them both backward, slamming Corbin into the solid concrete wall. The building shuddered. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Corbin gasped for air. He raised his leather-clad hand, trying to bring the silver down on Rylan's spine. Sandra watched from the shadows. She gripped the empty pepper spray canister tight. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She wanted to yell, to warn him, but she knew her voice would only distract him. Rylan did not need a warning. He anticipated the strike. He reached up and grabbed Corbin's wrist. His bone-white talons dug deep into the thick cowhide leather, stopping the silver inches from his own fur. He squeezed. Bones cracked under the pressure. Corbin screamed. The silver ring slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a metallic ring. Rylan grabbed Corbin by the collar of his gray coat. He hurled the rival leader across the room. Corbin crashed into a brick pillar and crumpled to the ground, defeated and weaponless. Chapter 19. Corbin lay in a heap at the base of the brick support. He coughed, spitting a mouthful of blood onto the dusty floor. He tried to push himself up, but his right leg gave out. The limp turned into a complete collapse. He slumped back against the stone, clutching his broken wrist. Rylan stalked forward. The midnight black pelt bristled along his spine. He kicked the silver weapon away. The metal skittered into the dark corner of the cellar, out of reach. He stood over his rival. The liquid fire in his eyes burned bright, casting an amber glow in the dim light. He bared his fangs. A low, vibrating growl rumbled deep within his chest. It was a demand for submission. Trent crawled out from under the cardboard boxes. He saw his leader bleeding on the ground. He saw the giant beast standing victorious. The bald thug did not hesitate. He scrambled to his feet, grabbed the weeping, blind Derek by the jacket collar, and dragged him toward the staircase. The two men bolted up the steps, abandoning the fight entirely. Corbin watched his men run. The betrayal stung worse than the broken bones. He looked up at the towering Alpha. He knew the old laws. The challenge was over. He had lost. Corbin bowed his head, exposing his neck in the ultimate gesture of defeat. "I yield. The pack is yours." Rylan held the dominant stance for a long moment. He let the victory settle into his bones. He secured his territory. He protected the pups back home. He kept his mate safe. "The threat is broken," his inner wolf announced, satisfied. Rylan stepped back. He turned away from the beaten man. "Leave my city. Never cross my borders again." Corbin did not argue. He dragged himself off the floor. Supporting his weight against the walls, he hobbled toward the stairs. He cast one final, hateful glare at Sandra hiding behind the pillar, then disappeared up into the hotel. The basement fell silent. The only sounds were the hum of the caged light bulb and the steady drip of a leaky pipe. Rylan closed his eyes. He willed his heartbeat to slow. He pictured his human shape. The beast melted away. The coarse fur receded into his skin. His spine cracked back into its upright human posture. His facial features softened, shifting from a lethal snout back to a rugged jawline. The glowing fire in his irises faded, leaving his standard, dark human gaze. He dropped to his knees. The shift took a massive toll on his energy. He breathed heavy. He was completely bare-chested. The bandages were gone. The deep slice on his bicep bled sluggishly. The black, blistered burn on his shoulder looked raw and angry. Sandra stepped out from the shadows. She walked over to a nearby supply shelf. Adam had left a pile of clean, lost and found clothes there earlier in the week. Sandra grabbed a faded gray hooded sweatshirt. She walked over to Rylan and tossed the garment onto his lap. "Put that on before you catch a cold," Sandra ordered. Rylan looked up at her. He wiped a streak of dirt from his forehead. He picked up the gray fabric and pulled it over his head. It was a tight fit across his chest, but it covered the worst of his injuries. He looked around the ruined basement. Smashed bottles, broken boxes, and scattered weapons littered the space. "I made a mess of your hotel again," Rylan stated. Sandra let out a short, tired laugh. She walked over and offered him her hand. "My boss is going to fire me, but I think saving the world from mutant hitmen is a decent excuse." Rylan reached up and grabbed her hand. Her grip was strong. She hauled him to his feet. He swayed for a second, his balance off from the pain, and leaned against her shoulder. "Thank you," Rylan whispered. He meant it for the pepper spray, for the trap, and for not running away. "You are welcome," Sandra replied. She guided him toward the staircase. "Now let's get out of this creepy cellar. I need a shower, and you need a doctor who doesn't ask questions." Chapter 20. 4 days passed. The Grand Hotel lobby smelled of fresh paint and lemon polish. A crew replaced the shattered center table and hauled the slashed sofa to the dump. The day manager ordered a new leather couch, but it would not arrive for a month. Sandra stood behind the reception counter. She typed a guest invoice into the computer. She wore her standard uniform. Everything felt painfully normal. Adam walked through the sliding glass doors. He wore his backward cap and carried a white paper bag that smelled like greasy fries. He marched straight to the desk and dropped the bag. "Lunch delivery for the hero of the basement," Adam announced. He leaned on the counter, a smug grin plastered on his face. He felt invincible since the fight. He told everyone at his community college he fought off a gang of thieves. "Thank you, loudmouth." Sandra grabbed a fry. "Keep your voice down. I just got the manager to stop asking why the storage room looked like a war zone." I threw those bottles perfectly, Adam boasted. I am basically a tactical genius. The elevator bell dinged. The metal doors opened. Ryland stepped into the lobby. He wore a crisp white button-down shirt and dark slacks. He looked rested. The dark circles under his eyes were gone. He walked with a smooth, powerful stride. The deep slice on his arm was already fully closed, leaving a faint pink scar. The silver burn on his shoulder would take weeks to mend, but he hid the pain well. Adam straightened his posture. "Hey, man, looking sharp." Rylan offered the teenager a respectful nod. "Adam, thank you for the assistance. Your timing was impeccable." Adam puffed his chest out. "Anytime. If you need any more tactical distractions, you know who to call." The teenager grabbed a handful of fries and walked toward the back office, leaving them alone. Ryland stopped in front of the counter. He rested his hands on the polished stone surface. He locked eyes with Sandra. "Checking out?" Sandra asked. She tried to keep her voice professional, but a knot formed in her stomach. The challenge was over. He had a pack to run. He had no reason to stay in the city. "No," Rylan answered. "I spoke to my elders this morning. Corbin is gone. The territory is secure. The pack is safe." "That is good news," Sandra forced a smile. "So you are going home?" "Eventually," Ryland said. He tapped a finger on the desk. "But I realized my pack can survive without me breathing down their necks for a few weeks. I booked the penthouse suite on the 5th floor, paid in advance for the next month." Sandra paused. Her fingers hovered over her computer keyboard. "You are staying." "I am," Rylan confirmed. He leaned a fraction closer. The scent of cedar and fresh rain washed over her. "I owe you for a broken lamp, and a ruined lobby, and for saving my life." "I will add it to your tab," Sandra joked, her heart skipping a beat. "Do that," Rylan smiled. It was a real, genuine smile that reached his dark eyes. "But first, I want to take you to dinner. Somewhere that does not serve vending machine sandwiches. A real date. If you are not too busy fighting crime, of course." Sandra looked at the tall, intimidating man standing in front of her. She remembered the fierce beast in the basement. She remembered the gentle touch of his hand in the office. He was complicated, dangerous, and incredibly stubborn. She liked him. "I think my schedule is clear," Sandra smirked. She crossed her arms and leaned on the counter to match his posture. "But if you turn into a wolf and ruin the restaurant, you are paying the bill." "Deal," Rylan agreed. He turned and walked back toward the elevator. He felt lighter than he had in years. The heavy burden of leadership rested easy on his shoulders. He found his match in a human city, behind a hotel desk. "Mate is ours," the inner wolf howled, a joyous, vibrating sound echoing in the depths of his mind. "Yes," Rylan answered silently. "She is." The end. Quick favor, don't go anywhere yet. If you thought Sandra was brave for handing a shifting alpha a turkey sandwich, wait until you meet the heroine in this next story on your screen. You have to hear this mess unfold. Click the video on your screen right now. It is pure chaos.